A lot of people are worried about AI taking their job, and maybe they're right about that. Like it is becoming more and more capable and more efficient. And with that efficiency, there's a lot of knock-on effects. One of those might be the stability of your job you have. Um, and what that leads to, does it lead to UBI? Does it lead to mass unemployment? To people living on the streets because robots and clankers are taking their jobs? I'm not sure, but I think Bitcoin comes into this and is a way to protect yourself. And I think we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the knock-on effects of AI and the ultimate debasement that ends up happening because of it.
Yeah, it seems like a big theme around the world right now and the crazy thing is it's actually been replacing a lot of jobs as of late. And it seems like there's a saying in AI right now is that it's the worst it's going to be today, and it's only going to improve. So there's only going to be more and more jobs lost to AI. Which, I mean, when you think about it long term, I think it will be a good thing, but I think there will be a lot of turbulence in the meantime between then and now. And I think that Bitcoin, to me, is an anchor that kind of brings some truth to a world full of lies. It seems like every day I'm talking to somebody else who has been scammed, or not necessarily scammed out of money, but just like scammed out of truth almost. That's kind of how I see it. There's a lot of people who aren't really understanding AI's capabilities right now. And there's a lot of people who are really trusting anything that they see online. And I think that Bitcoin's actually going to be the thing that brings some sort of truth into the world, and brings truth back to the internet. Because if you think about Bitcoin in this sense, it's scarce. We all know that, but it actually takes a piece of the physical world and it brings it into the digital world. Because without something real in the physical world, either energy or value, you can't obtain Bitcoin, and then you can't participate, I guess, in the true internet. So I think the whole thing's going to evolve. With I'm hoping we can explore during this conversation today. But it is going to be one of those Maple Bitcoin conversations where we don't have a script, we don't have a agenda. We're just going to talk and see what happens with it. So, what are your thoughts on it, Rajat?
I think one of the most powerful things about Bitcoin is that it truly protects you. It protects you against um, disruption, right? So let's say, for example, any business is going to be disrupted by some other business that comes out with a better product, a cheaper product. You could be creating value for the last 30 years. And if this new business comes out and they completely eat your lunch, you're done, right? You're not going to get any more revenue. But the thing is that in that time, you would have earned some money. So if you have fiat, you have to keep earning money. You have to keep earning money. That's why we have cash flow. People are so concerned about earning cash flow from their assets, from their real estate properties. With Bitcoin, you don't necessarily, I mean, you want cash flow because you want to pay for your expenses and you don't want to sell your Bitcoin, but you don't necessarily need cash flow because the purchasing power of your Bitcoin that you purchased is going to keep increasing. It's going to keep increasing. And that's value that you put away from a while ago, and you can use that value literally forever. Whereas with fiat, it's a little bit different. Where with fiat, AI can actually kill you. It can destroy your wealth. It can get rid of everything that you have because everything becomes more abundant. And I guarantee you that governments are probably going to try to use AI in some way to decide whether they should spend more money or not, right? And that's just they're probably going to program it, and they're gonna make it in a way that it always tells them, yeah, you should spend more because that's the best way to go, right? And that's just how things are. But with Bitcoin, you know that no matter how crazy your government gets, no matter how stupid their expenses get, you're protected because your Bitcoin can't be debased. With AI, with AI, the production of everything increases, and we were talking about this before. Productivity increases, supply of everything increases. I guarantee you that at some point, the people who have rental properties today, their properties are going to be debased because we're going to find some way to make better properties and more properties. And we're going to find a way to dig deeper into the ground to make condos, for example, right? But if you have Bitcoin, nobody can change that. No matter what happens, there's only going to be 21 million. And that protects you against AI because AI is increasing productivity and you can't keep up as a person because the world will always get better and better. And your personal labor will always be debased because of AI, but with Bitcoin, you're protected.
It's the perfect counterweight is the way I kind of see it, as like they almost have the opposite properties, where Bitcoin is this first thing of digital scarcity, of absolute scarcity, whereas AI, it's not only just constantly getting better. Like, it wasn't that long ago where we had that terrible image of Will Smith eating spaghetti, and now we have these crazy realistic body cam videos on Sora where you can just continually swipe and see new very realistic, where you have to take a double take, and if it doesn't have that watermark, you might get tricked by this if you're just glancing at it quickly, right? These videos are incredible, right? And this one example, but they're not only just incredibly advanced compared to where they were, they're incredibly abundant, and there's very little restriction to the abundancy of the creation of AI that AI can do. Like, tokens get cheaper, the cost per prompt gets cheaper when it comes to AI. Like, this is like a race to the bottom. And Bitcoin is the exact opposite in that way. It is not getting more abundant. It is getting more scarce. Every halving, it gets more scarce. Every time somebody loses some, it gets more scarce. And because of that, it's this counterbalance where and all, the other thing too is it's incredibly certain. It's incredibly predictable. It's incredibly
Yep.
certain. And AI's productivity is incredibly uncertain. So will it take your job today? Will it take it tomorrow? Will it replace you in a year? I don't know. There's so many variables, but it's trending in that direction. But because of the uncertainty, it's kind of scary, right? Like, and so having that security, like earlier when we were coming up with the idea, we kind of described Bitcoin as like a safety net or as a shield to protect you. And that's really what certainty does when something is coming into your life that is incredibly uncertain, which is what Bitcoin or what AI is at this point.
Yeah, when you have the ability between AI and technology to create that abundance, to create pretty much as much of anything as you want to, just think about that. Think about that world where we have all this information, all these products, we can make anything very efficiently and very inexpensively. Think about what the world would look like if we didn't have a scarce asset like Bitcoin to measure all that. They would just keep going up in fiat terms because they would just keep printing more money. And that money would flow into these different asset classes and these different products. And it would continue to separate the wealthy people from the poor people, where the poor people might only be able to have enough fiat to buy a sandwich. Whereas if they're saving in Bitcoin, because that abundance is eventually going to become repriced in Bitcoin terms, regardless of how much Bitcoin you're holding today, if you have any amount, that's actually going to buy you leverage in the future. And so when you have a world that's full of abundance of products, of services, of tools, of everything, if you have something scarce to measure that by, as those numbers keep going up in abundance, as it just keeps going, it all gets repriced by Bitcoin. And as more is made, everything actually becomes cheaper in that scarce asset. In those units that you're holding, as more and more is created more efficiently, if you have a scarce unit of account like Bitcoin to reprice those, everything is actually falling in price. And that's something we've seen in the last decade is if you're holding Bitcoin, as everything becomes more and more abundant, it also becomes cheaper because all of those things are being repriced by the scarce units that you're holding right now.
Yeah.
And then
So like,
because, oh, go
go
ahead, bro.
ahead.
I
Oh,
was gonna say,
okay.
and because of that, because of what Jory was saying right there, things get more abundant. We get better at making things. Because of that, governments are going to work even harder to debase our money,
Yeah.
and they're going
Yeah.
to do whatever they can to create more and just flood it into the market because they need prices to go up. Otherwise, if prices don't go up, banks collapse, right? If prices don't go up, then people don't need to borrow money, and if they don't borrow money, then banks have no revenue. If banks have no revenue, then the financial system collapses because what else are we using the financial system for? The banks need inflation. Without inflation, the banks die. And Bitcoin is a direct competitor of banks, meaning that Bitcoin, I mean, in a way, Bitcoin is going to kill banks,
Yeah.
right? And then all of that connects to AI because AI is going to make it so that we become more and more efficient. We get better at making things. We produce more things. We are able to digital products, physical products, whatever it is. We're going to be able to produce more things, and then there's going to be a bigger market for what you can buy with your Bitcoin, and that's where the deflation comes from, right? So for every Satoshi that you have, you can buy a certain number of goods. over time, those goods are going to keep increasing. There's going to be more and more things available to be sold for Bitcoin. And because if you save in Bitcoin, then your purchasing power goes up. But if you don't save in Bitcoin, if you save in fiat, AI is going to destroy your wealth. It's going to make it so that the supply of things keeps increasing, and governments will work with AI to destroy your wealth. And it's a feedback loop from hell.
It is. It's a feedback loop. Yeah. And that's all like as a like things should get cheaper with more efficiency, right? This is the way it works. AI is doing something cheaper, so it costs you less to do it, and that thing is now more efficient. That is deflation, right? That is the cost of things going down, and that would totally be great if the system allowed for that. But as Rajat just said there, the system does not allow for deflation. Things need more debt creates more debt because there's the interest rate of that debt that needs to be paid. So it creates more money printing, and that debt gets cheaper and cheaper over time. So basically, the increased efficiencies that happen with technology just allows more room for debasement from the organizations that print money. And then they take that opportunity up because they're stuck in this system that they built, which is a debt and credit based system of issuing more debt over time, issuing more credit over time, and people needing dollars to pay for that debt, which keeps the system alive. If you didn't have debt, if you didn't need dollars and everybody accepted Bitcoin, you could live on Bitcoin, right? But there's those points, like even people that live on a Bitcoin standard, they end up sort of doing these roundabout ways where they use a credit card, they pay off their credit card through sort of through Bitcoin Well or something, like they pay their bills through one of these platforms, or they use something like Bitrefill where they're buying gift cards. They still sort of have to tie into the fiat system because all the debt demands dollars. Which keeps the system alive. And so, the increased efficiencies, it should go to you as an individual, but it doesn't because of dollars. And it does if you save in something that actually maintains its value and is not being debased, right? Is not getting, is not becoming less scarce over time like dollars are. Dollars are becoming more abundant. It's easier to acquire dollars. A very simple way of putting that is minimum wage in Canada. When I worked for a minimum wage job was $8 an hour. It's now $17.50 or whatever. It's just you do the same amount of work. I would have done the same amount of work as a teenager as somebody doing work today, right? Working at McDonald's, whatever it is, and you're getting paid more than twice as many dollars because they're more than twice as abundant. It's easier to acquire them, but they're worth less. That $17 will buy you less stuff than it would have that $8 that I made back then. So the unit of account is broken, the dollar is broken. Bitcoin can save you from your life becomes cheaper on Bitcoin, and it's just as simple as that. It can act as a safety net, and your life becomes cheaper, as it should, because of the deflationary force, like the increase of technology and efficiencies that come with something like AI.
And if you think about it kind of simply too, like what you were talking about there is the government has this debt that we owe to the whoever. And as the debt grows, the interest requirements grow, and so they are forced to print more money. And when they're forced to print more money, that money flows into something, right? And forced, I think you just posted a video on this actually, but it flows into assets, right? And so the people who actually hold assets, whether that's stocks, homes, gold, Bitcoin, the people who hold those assets, they become richer. And the people who don't have those assets, they become poorer because they don't get to take part in the growth, the appreciation of assets. Even though it is artificial, you can still say, okay, my house went from being worth $300,000 to $600,000 because of how much money they printed. But now I can take that $300,000 and I can go buy more. I can take on a loan against it. And so I have more ability to buy things, whereas the people who don't have assets, who are holding fiat and just they don't own anything, they just get further and further behind because they're still making the same amount of money, but things cost more in their life. So they get poorer, and the people who have assets become more wealthy and they have more flexibility because of that system and how it works. Whereas if you just kind of hold it in Bitcoin, whatever amount it is, $5 a month. If you can do that for a couple of years, you're actually going to buy time and leverage into the future, and you're not going to be debased constantly by the money printer. And then as all this abundance gets repriced in Bitcoin, you're holding some of those scarce units. And so you're going to be able to participate in whatever's happening.
And I think that Bitcoin, oh, sorry, go ahead. I thought
I
you
was just going to say, I remember walking through the city with my brother, and we were looking at all the empty parking lots and all the different cars on the road. And I'm like, you know, in 5 or 10 years from now, there's going to be a lot of robo taxis, which would fit in with both technology and AI. And if you think about how cheap it's going to be to produce a robo taxi and to operate without a human being in there, like you're going to be able to go across the city in a robo taxi for like 5 sats. Because again, there's all this abundance, all this technology, all of these things, but there's only so much Bitcoin. And so people have to decide what they actually want to allocate those sats towards. And so there's not an abundance of things, units to spend anymore. So everything just keeps going down as more and more is created. Because of Bitcoin, the cost of everything is just going to go down if you're storing it in sats.
And I think that Bitcoin is probably the only asset that's truly going to protect you. Everything else is going to be disrupted. Like with stocks, for example, let's say you own Nvidia. I know they probably have a moat right now, but who's to say that in 20 years that moat won't be disrupted? Who's to say that
Or
maybe
2
even
years.
AMD or 2 years, a year from now, 6 months from now, right? Who knows that another company won't come out with a better product? I don't think it'll take longer, but who knows? Maybe something is in the works right now to disrupt Nvidia. Nvidia's it's really performing really well, right? And somebody probably wants to take a part of that. If they want to take a part of that profit, the best thing they can do is create another company that competes with Nvidia, right? And if you own Nvidia, how do you know that that's not going to happen? How do you know that over the long term, you're going to continue to outperform against Bitcoin? And then I think this goes back to, I don't know if we did a video on this, but Bitcoin is the hurdle rate, right? So if you don't own, if whatever you're doing isn't surpassing Bitcoin's returns, then it's not worth it. You're wasting your time.
Which is what right now? What's the return?
Probably small businesses.
No.
What is the return? Like 30, 40, 50% a year or something like that, right? I think the only thing that can really surpass that is starting a small business, starting your own thing, right? If you own these companies that are making you 10%, you're actually destroying wealth. In terms of Bitcoin, you're losing value over time. And again, AI goes into that and it makes that disruption even easier.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no comparable competition for Bitcoin. I mean, the next best thing compared to Bitcoin as far as the aspects of scarcity, being able to transfer value, is gold. And it's incredibly difficult to transfer value with gold. Massive spreads. It's so crazy. And then other people might think, okay, well, what about crypto? All these crypto coins and stuff. And it's like, well, with the advent of AI, you could literally just download Cursor, use the free plan, say, hey, spit out a token for me that is like Bitcoin, but with 22 million Bitcoin. It'll grab the open source code, it'll spit it out, you'll name it Jorcoin, and it'll be worth nothing because it is worth nothing, right? The abundant technology of AI makes anything digital more abundant, except for something like Bitcoin that cannot be messed with. Bitcoin can't be effed with, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rajat said Nvidia. Forrest said both gold and crypto. And I think it just, if you think about anything that has ties to the fiat system, I think that even real estate is basically ingrained in the fiat debt system. Like it's how it kind of props everything up. So even if you have a house right now, yeah, it's great, your value's going up, but like when you go to buy a new house, you're going to be paying more for it anyways. So it's good, but it's not nearly what Bitcoin is. I think that when you're trying to allocate your capital, you should look at different disruptions, like Rajat talked about. Look at what makes different Bitcoin than crypto. What's the problem with real estate and it being so ingrained within the fiat system? All of those things are kind of tied together. Stocks, even the gold market is very manipulated. Real estate, it's all kind of attached to that fiat system. Whereas if you're holding sats and self-custody, it is completely separated from that. They might have an exchange rate of how many dollars you can get for one Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean it's tied to the system at all. It's completely cut off from the fiat system.
And it's only going to get less and less tied, because right now there's sort of these peripheral attempts at hooking in the fiat system. Oh, you have to use KYC, you have to use an
Right.
exchange that's on and off ramps. The systems of self custody, the systems of privacy tech, of layer twos, layer threes, the systems of peer to peer exchanges, these are things that are in the works, that are being developed. Bitcoin is actually only going to get better from here. That's what's crazy. It's only going to get better and scarcer again. So you you need something to protect yourself. Like, it's as simple as that. And the only real estate you mentioned. I mean, the only reason real estate has the potential to outperform is if you use huge amounts of leverage, which people don't seem as risky, but is incredibly risky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
And over time,
with
over
Bitcoin,
time,
you don't
AI
need
just
any
gets
leverage.
right. AI just gets better and better, right? It just gets better and better and makes it so that everything that you do. So I think one of the other things that I guess we can discuss here is that with AI, more people can have the skills that you have. Like with Forrest, for example, he's been coding through AI and he's making his own websites, which is so cool. But think about it. How many people in the past? So if I wanted to make the exact same kind of website that Forrest wants to make, I would have probably had to pay somebody like $300, $400, $500, right? If not more,
Yeah.
right? And today, because of AI, you're able to do that nearly for free. The only expense that you have is your time.
Yeah, which you could do it on the side. You just you
Right.
say you give it a list of things, and then it just starts spitting out code. Meanwhile, you're over here on your other monitor playing Fortnite, whatever, watching YouTube, whatever, and then you go back to it, and not speaking from personal experience or anything, and you put in some more prompts. You say, hey, this is wrong. I want this different. It might take you a couple hours, but yeah, it's not costing you a thing, basically.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's a good thing to tie into here, because what you guys are saying there essentially is like, as it becomes easier to do things, there's going to be more and more competition, right? So instead of paying thousands of dollars or getting specific skills like going to school or something to learn how to do that, you can just bypass that whole thing. And so with more competition means that you're going to have, if you think about this, more competition, more people being able to do the same thing because of the AI, that means that you're going to have to work harder and harder for in the fiat system. The more competition there is, the harder you're going to have to work to basically be exactly where you are today.
And it's not just on the individual level. It's like thinking of assets and investments again. It's on the company-wide scale as well, where competition will level out all the efficiency gains. We
Yeah.
saw this with the internet boom, where the early adopters of the internet had outsized potential and returns, and sales and things like that. But then eventually, every company has a website. So it's the same thing. It's like the early adopters to AI can have these outsized returns, or startups can start and really grow really rapidly into a position where they're competitive against these other sides. And because of that it's like a big equalizer. So any of the potential gains eventually gets leveled out to all of the competition as well, and then it's a similar market to where we are today. Like the market, it just equalizes. There's these potential sort of like booms in infrastructure, like what we're seeing with Nvidia, the value of OpenAI, because they're ahead on the model game. But eventually all the competition begins to equalize that, and all of those gains get sucked out and spread out again, and then you're left with just the average return of the efficiency of the market, which the average return is debasement. It's the debasement level. So there's no outsized returns, which means there's no actual protection of your capital and of your life force, which you've stored in currency and assets. So yeah, you got to go to the most efficient store of value, right? The store of value function of Bitcoin gets discussed a lot, and people say, oh, it's not a medium of exchange. The medium of exchange is secondary. It's equally as important, but it doesn't mean that it's equally as valuable. Right now, the US dollar is a great medium of exchange, an absolute terrible store of value, and therefore it will fail. So those two things are incredibly important. You can use Bitcoin as a perfect medium of exchange, but because it has the store of value function, it will succeed over all the other assets that do not have those principles and properties.
I just think of a lot of these different companies now that have, have had the pleasure of having these certain margins. So let's say a company out there might have made 20, 25, 30% profit margins for the last decade. But now because of AI being mixed in, maybe they've gone down to 10% profit margins. And then they're going to go down as more competition is easily created because of technology. Their profit margins are going to go down to 5% and then 2%. And then they're going to have to start either investing in different technologies. And if they're storing their wealth in fiat, if their treasury is sitting in fiat, that cost in the background just going to keep going up of whatever they need to buy and or invest back into. And the other part of that too is with the business profit margins being so slim, companies are going to start looking for different ways to save money. And right now, if you can save 2 or 3% by cutting out Visa and MasterCard and starting to accept Bitcoin and understanding the treasury, the benefit of holding Bitcoin on your treasury versus fiat, and then you get to the point of businesses not only accepting Bitcoin, but demanding Bitcoin because they don't want to waste that 1 or 2% of having to convert the fiat into Bitcoin. And then that spirals into more people adopting Bitcoin, using Bitcoin. And then the sats become worth even more in a world that's sinking costs overall. It's a wild equation to think about where we're at right now compared to looking out a little while here. It's wild.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to kind of touch on here, boys, to get your thoughts on this is because of like all the stuff on the internet right now, you open up Facebook or Instagram, you can't really tell if it's an AI video or if it's legitimate. You get these phone calls, you get these texts, these emails, you can't really decipher what's real from fake. I see Bitcoin, another reason why people will be using Bitcoin in the future is I see is a BS detector almost. Is like a way to prevent spam. I think we've talked about this a couple times now, but I think that it's becoming more and more apparent that this is needed because in a world of abundant products, abundant information, there's also abundant bots, the ability to spin up spam and bots without any sort of cost. And I don't know how you guys have noticed or felt about this lately, but I spent like 10 minutes this morning deleting 50 comments of bots underneath one of my videos. And it's like, man, my time is scarce. And for me to spend 10 minutes having to delete bots, that just eventually that's going to turn into a much bigger problem than it is today. And I feel like Bitcoin and Lightning and the technology that's evolving in the space, you might have to send like one sat to leave a comment. So that completely kills the bots because even they might be able to get away with it for a while, maybe. But like, think about if they're spinning up hundreds of thousands of bots, leaving their crypto token or their whatever token in there. If they had to pay one sat to do that, are they going to do that? No. And so I think that in a world full of abundance, having something that, again, coming from the physical world into the digital world that you cannot recreate, that you cannot fake, that you cannot print more of, it anchors truth back to the internet, which is so needed right now.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of Hashcash by Adam Back is exactly this, where you use a little bit of computational power as an expense to send an email to somebody
to prove you're real.
Yeah, basically. Well, to just have to stop spam, actually, not
Okay.
to prove you're real. And then if somebody was trying to send 500 emails, then it becomes expensive and difficult to actually produce the proof of work to do that. So that's the problem. Is like it's no problem to send for an individual to send a few emails and have a small cost associated with that, whether it's just electricity from their computer. But it's a massive problem for somebody doing that at huge, massive scale with spam. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that potential comes back, but with the cost of Bitcoin being the thing that deters people from spamming. And as sort of like an identifier as well, there's potential ways of doing that. There's people that have tried that with Bitcoin, like putting identity linked to a transaction or something like that. There's potential for that. I mean, we'll have to kind of see how that goes. It's definitely not there yet, but I think as AI becomes easier and easier, and there's more slop that is basically hard to determine who it's from or if it's legit or what source, and I think it becomes more and more of a problem, and therefore more important to solve that problem. And there is the potential for Bitcoin to be implemented in a way that either limits the ability through cost or helps identify who's actually real. I think that is possible. Not sure exactly how that looks though.
I think it was Michael Saylor that was talking about this. He was saying how you might have to deposit
Mhm.
a certain amount of satoshis to start an account on a social media platform, and then you get it back afterwards or something like that. I
Yep.
feel like that's a pretty cool idea as well, because what that does is, instead of let's say, for example, if you have to do one sat, anybody who's really rich can literally create hundreds of thousands of accounts, right? But if you have to deposit, let's say, 5,000 satoshis per account, and then you get it back, that's a little bit different, because that just
Yeah.
increases the cost massively. So I think it'll make it so that AI can't be used to create the kind of slop that it's being
Yes.
used to create today. And
Yes.
I mean, it'll probably still exist. Like, there's probably some billionaire out there who wants to do something stupid with AI, but
But he can't
it'll
do it
just get
forever
harder.
though. That's
Right.
the
Yeah.
difference,
You
right?
run out
Like
of time.
eventually they would run out.
Yeah.
Not only their share, but it's like they can't just keep buying more and more of it like you could with literally anything other than Bitcoin.
Mhm.
At some point they would run out of sats, or they would have to spend their life savings to buy a little bit more. But it's like, at that point, is it really worth it? So I just think that it would completely make spam obsolete. And I think that we're really close to like needing that on the internet, because it's getting crazy out there right now. And so even if you had to zap like one sat to leave a comment, yeah, you'd probably have less conversation, less comments, but like, I would much rather prefer that. And it wouldn't be about like the creator making money off of that. It would just be to keep the crap out.
Mhm.
And same as like emails and texts. Like if you had, let's say, a contact list of people in your life. So I'd have Rajat, Forrest, my mom, my dad, my brother, my best friends, all in this contact list. They could text me for free. They could email, they could call me for free. But anybody outside of that list, if they want to get a hold of me, they got to, send me the equivalent of 50 sats. Then it just stops the spam. And even if people didn't have Bitcoin, there would be some sort of system in the background to say, hey, if you want to send Jordan an email, it's going to be 20 cents worth of Bitcoin. Do you want to do it?
I mean, it would have to be an opt-in system though, that you would want to opt into, so that you protect yourself from spam, or you validate everything you see is real or has a cost associated
Mhm.
with it, so it's more likely to be real. But then there would still be the option, because the internet's free to use, there would still, if there was a profitable way to have a service that's ad supported or data harvesting supported, that feeds people slop and still has spam, then a lot of people would still use that as opposed to
100%.
paying. So it's kind of like the free market would decide whether that's valuable or not. But again,
Definitely. Like,
yeah,
it might take decades for everybody to kind of be involved in that.
yeah,
But for somebody like me, like, I would much rather go that route, even if I had to pay like X amount a month, so that I'm not receiving all these different emails, and all these bots aren't commenting on my videos. Like, to me, that's worth it. It wouldn't be worth it for everybody,
yeah,
but that's the world that I think people are going to get to create on their own.
yeah,
Like,
maybe.
even today, everybody sees a different view of the world because of their algorithms, because of whatever else, how much spam they have in their life. But I feel like if you have the ability and the capital to kind of put an iron dome around your own life and just say, hey, if you want to get a hold of me, you got to send me some Bitcoin just to prove that you're, not spam. I just think about how much time we've been stolen by spam. Like, even today, 10 minutes deleting comments in a YouTube video. Like, that's 10 minutes that I'll never get back, 10 units of my life that I'll never get back again because of this spam. It's a problem.
It's a huge problem. Like, I got a call from my bank yesterday. I was worried about picking up. I had no idea if this was my bank or not when I answered. Because 9 out of 10 of my calls that I receive are robo scammers and stuff, right? Like, I literally cannot trust a phone call I receive. And literally, like, they were offering me something. I was just like, I'm working. I gotta go, because I still have no idea if that was my bank or not. I have no way of validating it. Like, I have no clue.
But
So
it's
it's
just
not worth
because
the risk.
and the cost of all these things has just become so cheap, like to spin up bots, to spin up phone numbers, to spin up
Yeah.
email addresses. That's the abundance that we're talking about here that needs to be reined in.
Yep.
And it'll just get cheaper. Over time,
Exactly.
it'll just get cheaper. As
And
AI
better.
gets better, it'll just get cheap. Like, I think one of you guys mentioned it earlier, but AI is at the worst that it
Yeah.
is right now. It'll just get better from here.
Yeah.
Orders of magnitude better, right?
That's what I was
Whatever you
gonna
can do
say.
today,
Yeah.
you'll be able to do today, you'll be able to do 10 times more in a few years.
Yep. It's going to get crazy. And again, that's that uncertainty that I talked about, and the certainty of Bitcoin is incredibly calming, right? It's that anchor. It's the
It's the
extra.
anchor.
It's the lead keel that keeps you facing your boat facing the way you want it to in a turbulent sea, right? It is it's what keeps you steady, and yeah, it's incredibly important to have something like that into this future, that this future potential that we see here.
I couldn't imagine the world without Bitcoin. Like not only just like preserving your purchasing power, but like what the internet would evolve into without something like Bitcoin to kind of rein it in, to anchor things back to.
It'd
It
be
would just be absolutely, it would be unusable.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be pretty scary without Bitcoin. Honestly, the future is like would be really, really scary. Like I know people are really scared of the future. It's why they're not having kids.
Mhm.
It's why they're not taking a chance on their passions. It's why the world is as terrible as it's why a lot of bad things in the world are happening, is because of how afraid people are of the future.
Yeah, Bitcoin certainty in a very uncertain world.
Yeah.
That's what it
Agreed.
seems like to me.
Yeah.
Well, boys, as usual, we went into this conversation blind. Didn't know if it was going to be 5 minutes or 5 hours, but anyways, I think we should leave it there.
Yeah. I think so. We've
Well,
explored the topic quite a bit for sure.
yes. And we do want to say thanks to anybody who's made it this far in the video. We understand how scarce and precious those sats are, but if you do feel like supporting what we're doing here, we have a QR code to make it very easy to use the Lightning Network to send some sats. We're also going to put our static address, which somebody or a couple of people have requested lately. So we'll put that in the pinned comments, our on-chain address, if you want to send a big or small donation to the channel here. And consider a big part of this future is going to be finding people who are kind of on the same frequency as you. Am I bringing this up, Forrest?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was going to get to. You read my mind. Part of the future here, the uncertainty, is having people that you can talk to about it, and having people that have your back in these uncertain times. It makes a big difference. We got over 160 members in there right now, and people from all around the world, Bitcoiners from all around the world, who have each other's back and are interested in growing together, helping each other out. And of course, we have all this amazing exclusive content here. We got courses. We got different discussions going on. We got different contests in there. So we're going to have a link to that school, Maple Bitcoin School, as well in the comments. So consider joining. We have a very low cancellation rate in there. We have a bunch of lifetime members, people who are there for the long term. And it just vibes with the low time preference within Bitcoin. So look at all that stuff.
Yeah, this is all of this is exclusive. These are all our happy hours we do every week, where people can actually join and turn your mic on, turn your video on, basically get an exclusive hour, community funded hour with the rest of the members, but with access to Rajat, Jor, and I. Pretty high
That's how
valuable
many
product.
we've done.
I know, that's
I think
crazy.
we've got
That's
10 or 12. What is it? 11.
11. That's
Wow.
crazy.
I thought we
Seems
did like
just
3.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that all these links will be in the pinned comments and in the show notes. So consider joining if you want some friends who have more friends, and we're going to grow this thing into something pretty special. Our goal is to have a couple Bitcoiners in every country on the planet at Maple Bitcoin School. So we're just getting started. We'd love to have you on board. And the more time you spend there, the more proof of work you put in, and the more trust and reputation you have into this chaotic world we're heading into. So great discussion today, fellas, and we'll talk to you on the next one.